I am not looking to have a super formal, anything. This is a very open forum. If you have questions, chime in, put them in the chat, come off mute. Let's just have a fun session and learn a little bit more about employee recognition. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I am going to share my screen here. If I can find the right screen. It's always a trick. I think it's this one. No, this one. All right, can you all see this slide?
Yes.
Okay. So I say resume. Okay, are you still seeing the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, success. Okay, and let's go ahead and get started with a poll. Y'all thought you were just going to get to sit here and watch, but no, I'm going to be asking questions along the way, keep us engaged, and so that I have some information. So our first poll, okay, when did you last receive recognition for something at work? Go ahead and submit your response. Okay. All right, go ahead and end the poll and share our results. So we've got some people who are getting recognized, and then some people who I'm picturing that meme with the, you guys are getting paid for this, and it's, you people are getting recognized around here. So, we've got kind of a broad spectrum going here on how we're getting recognized at work. But then the next question for us to ask is, when did you last recognize someone at work? Okay, so maybe you're not getting recognized, but are you doing your part in recognizing others? Or are we here to kind of learn some of the ways that we can do that? All right. Go ahead and end the poll. And I'll show you the results. So what it looks like here is we have a group of people who are into recognizing others, and some people are getting that recognition back, and some people are maybe not quite getting the same recognition back that they're receiving. So this information is important for us to know because all of it goes towards creating that culture of recognition in the workplace. So Trina, to answer your question, which is actually a really good question about being recognized in a group setting or privately or both. So it is both because, some of us might not like public recognition, while others really do want that kind of in front of everybody recognition. So it's both, whether you're making that recognition public or you're receiving that recognition in private. Okay. Just a quick overview of our agenda for today. I'm going to go over some recognition statistics in case you're trying to build a business case on why recognition is important and why your organization or department should be doing more of it. I'm going to do some tips and tricks for how to make recognition more meaningful and more of a part of your workplace. And then I'll go into some of the UCR specific recognition programs that we have here on campus. Okay. So let's go into another poll. I know, what? I'm asking so many questions of you all. What am I doing? So this one's a quick one. I just want to know a little bit more about the group that's here, just so I know how I need to be kind of tailoring some of this information. If you currently supervise people, and then how long you've been here at UCR. How into the weeds I need to get on some of the UCR mission, or, or need to focus more on employee to employee recognition versus supervisor recognition. Okay. All right. Thank you all for responding. And just so you all can see kind of what our group looks like. We're fairly well split on how long we've been here at UCR, and then we've got slightly more people who don't supervise. So I'll make sure we cover, some ways that we can recognize our peers, even if we're not in a supervisory role. This graph here stole from OC Tanner. OC Tanner is a big recognition company. They did a survey with 1.7 million employees over the span of 2018 to 2020. And they found most important drivers of great work. Recognition, that big piece. Big piece in red in case, you just couldn't see it for yourself. They had to put it big in red. You have people who are always going to say that pay is the most important thing, or they want to be promoted. They just want autonomy in their work. Absolutely, those are all important things. But recognition is a huge driver of work. And when we don't necessarily have the ability to do some of the other things that can motivate great work, recognition is always something that we have the ability to do. Okay. So some of the benefits of recognizing others: increased motivation, decreased turnover, big problem in some departments. So recognition can really help with creating some stability. Higher engagement levels in the department. It can be a performance predictor for the department as a whole if there's that culture of recognition in place. Stronger workplace identity by having recognition that's tied towards things that identify who we are at work. It creates that stronger identity in the department, in the organization. It promotes learning and encourages people to grow in their jobs, creates greater meaning in the work. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that, millennials and Gen Z love to have meaning in their work. Speaking as a millennial, this is true. Meaning in work is great. Obviously, we still want to get paid, but we like having that meaning in the work. So recognition is a way to try and create some of the greater meaning in the day-to-day. Then also it can drive innovation, which is absolutely a super important thing, especially when we're always rolling out new systems and changing different processes. Encouraging employees through recognition can help drive that innovation. And I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into some of those great benefits of recognition. So Gallup did a study, and they found, in a workplace with a recognition culture, they saw a 9% improvement in productivity. Recognition can make people like the work they do better. It can help them like their coworkers better, their supervisor better. And when you have all of those things in place, you're going to do better work. Whereas, if you're not being recognized and you don't really like the work you do, maybe you're not giving it your 10 out of 10, you're giving it your 7 out of 10. Okay. As well, an interesting statistic that they found was a 22% decrease in safety incidents in places that have that workplace recognition culture. And that's sort of driven by a few different things. Sorry if you heard that. My cats are destroying things in my room. I was hoping they wouldn't join me for this Zoom meeting, but of course they did. Okay, so it decreases safety incidences for a few different reasons. So, when you have workplace recognition, it shows employees that they care about each other. They know that their coworkers, their supervisor care about the work that they do. They care about that they're doing it safely. Another way that it decreases safety incidences, it's a little big brother, but they know that someone is watching them. They know someone is seeing the work that they're doing, and so they know they need to do it in a safe way. And then it reaffirms the importance of quality in the work. It reaffirms that they can't just cut corners and, take a quick way. They have to do it the way it's supposed to be done because they're being recognized for doing it that way. And then another statistic, another benefit to having that workplace recognition culture is a 22% decrease in absenteeism. And that's kind of a twofold thing. So first, when you have that workplace recognition culture, work is a more fun place to be. It's not so much of a, I have to go to work today. I have to do this job again. Oh man. I'm excited to go see the people that I work with. I'm excited to do the work that I do and be recognized for the work that I do. And it supports employees' mental health. They've found in a bunch of different studies that being recognized and appreciated at work for what you do really boosts mental health. It improves how people are feeling. And when people are feeling better, they're more likely to go to work and not take off days for, needing a break. All right. So some tips and tricks for recognition. Let's see. Okay, so first trick, develop a habit of being frequent and timely. Okay. I'm gonna preface all of these tips and tricks by saying this. My team knows how much I love them, but I am by no means an expert at employee recognition. I struggle when I'm busy with doing it myself. So this tip was kind of one of the most important ones that I learned. Put it on your calendar. Just set aside once a week, 5 minutes on your calendar for taking down notes on, this person was really helpful. I'm just going to write down in my notes that this person did something great for me. And then once you've kind of built that habit of being able to recognize the great work that other people are doing around you, it becomes second nature and you just start doing it without having to have that calendar time. And then you can use that calendar time for actually giving recognition, not just recognizing what people are doing, but now setting aside time for putting it on meeting agendas or writing a private note for someone or whatever way it is that you're going to give the recognition. But the next tip, you can't recognize what you can't see. Okay, if you're not seeing it, and those of us who are in hybrid workforces or who are working remote, it can be really, really hard to see what other people are doing, especially if you're not interacting with them. It can be really difficult to see the great work that they're doing. So a trick for kind of being able to recognize work that you might not otherwise see, especially in a hybrid or remote workforce, called reflective recognition. It's a way to find out what employees themselves are proud of. So it's kind of a 3-step process. So I'll walk you through it. You start with an invitation to share. So you're in your regular meeting with somebody, or you're having a conversation with somebody. So whether you're a supervisor or a coworker, you're just asking. So like, hey, what have you been working on? Like, how are things going? What are you doing that you're like excited about? Just ask them to share, because you might not be aware, but if they're excited about it, they'll be excited to share. And then you're going to use some positive probing to find out a little bit more. Follow up on what they've just said by asking them how they're being able to do those things. So if they share with you that, they're really excited, they're about to roll out, a new process in the department, and, it's been a lot of work working with different people, you can ask them, well, how did it go working with, so-and-so? I know that sometimes that faculty member can be kind of difficult. How did it go for you? Dig a little bit deeper, find out a little bit more from them, and then you can reflect back and recognize them for what they share. Recognize if, they say that there were difficulties along the way, recognize them for being able to overcome those hurdles. Or if they hit a roadblock and they had to switch gears, recognize them for that innovation that they showed. We want to make sure that we're kind of recognizing all the steps along the way, not just that finished product. Because if we only recognize the finished product, people might get stalled out, and then, they don't feel like they have motivation to continue on and try something else. That's reflective recognition, and that ties into the next tip, which is don't make it all about the work. Okay. Yes, the work is important. The final product is important. Getting those deliverable results is important. But equally important is recognizing the steps people are taking along the way, the things that they're learning, the things that they're teaching, the skills and abilities that they're putting to use. We want to encourage people to be innovative and try new things. So you don't want to just recognize that final product. You want to recognize all of the things that they did as they were getting there, to just really encourage all of the different pieces into the work. I know that I've had projects where it didn't ever really come to fruition. I worked really, really hard on getting, a report made. And then it just turned out it just wasn't really what we needed. And so we ended up doing something else. And that report just kind of sat and got dusty. And it was a little bit demotivating to ever really try doing that kind of report again, because it never got recognized, all the work that went into it. So being able to recognize people for the efforts that are being made, even if it doesn't become a successful venture, can help them to continue trying and continue building on skills that they have. And just in case you all thought you got to just sit there, told you there'd be polls. We're gonna ask another question.
poll.
You love it, Bernie, I know.
I do, I do.
All right. So this poll, how do you prefer to be recognized? All right, you can select all that apply, but there's kind of a four-prong approach on recognition. Is it private? Is it public? Is it monetary? Or, developmental? What are the things that people want in their workplace recognition? And yes, there are circumstances where we might want all of those, but some people have strong preferences on, no, don't ever recognize me in public. Like, the embarrassment would just be too much. So knowing that's really important. Just gonna give it a couple more seconds. I got one last person to respond. I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll and show you all. You can see, kind of across the board, what people want.
Wow.
Those Star Awards and gift cards, of course, people want those, but some people, that's not what's important. A lot of people having that opportunity to take on more responsibility, or even just getting a shout out at a meeting, that's important to them. And then, for maybe some of the shyer people, having just a private email or note to recognize work, that's important to them. Okay, so that poll did have a meaning to it. Our next tip, personalizing the recognition. It's not a one size fits all. You really need to know your employees or your coworkers and know what's going to be meaningful for them. If you've got a coworker and they're amazing, they're the best thing since sliced bread, or since Betty White, since she was older than sliced bread, and you want to recognize them, but they're shy, do not call them out in a public setting. They're going to really cherish having that handwritten note from you, thanking them for whatever it is that they've done, a whole lot more than you putting them on the spot in a meeting. So knowing how people want to be recognized is really important, because recognition should be to encourage them. And if you do something that they don't like in recognizing them, they might stop doing what you're recognizing them for, so that you don't keep doing that. You don't want that. Okay. And then the other meaning to personalizing the recognition, and it's not a one size fits all, is it needs to be equitable and fair. Okay. You can't constantly recognize one person, because that's just going to create a resentment towards that person and towards you if the whole team is achieving something. You want to make sure that you're being equitable in how you're recognizing things and how you're recognizing people. And also, you don't want to award something huge the same way you award something small. So if you have a coworker who covered for you and helped you get a report done last minute, and you give them a $5 Starbucks gift card and thanks, and then you have another coworker who, they pulled off some big project and they managed to make you look so good with it that you ended up with a promotion, and you give them that same $5 gift card. It's not really equitable. It's not personal. It doesn't create that real feeling of recognition. It just kind of feels like you're doing it by rote, and doesn't create that deeper meaning to the recognition that's going to actually encourage people to continue doing great work and make them feel appreciated for the work that they're doing. Okay. And then the last little tip and trick is to bring it back to the mission. Now, whether that's the mission of UC and UCR, you know, the service, the learning, the teaching, research, all of that, whether it's the mission of the department, you know, if you're in an advising center serving the students, or you're in an academic unit and you're supporting the research process, or is it tying it back to the mission of that individual, the goal that that individual has for the year? Whatever it is, your recognition and how you're recognizing them should tie back to it. So if you're trying to recognize your coworker for something, you want to make sure that what you're recognizing them for is something that is tying back to the overall work of your department and work that's in support of what you're doing. As a supervisor, you know, an example I have is if you've got a financial analyst on your team and they're already pretty great, and then they go on LinkedIn Learning and they take a bunch of advanced Excel classes and they learn all these fancy things in there and they create stellar reports that all of a sudden just clear up all of the issues that you've ever had with Impact 23 and all of that. Like, awesome. You absolutely want to recognize that. You want that goes straight back to our mission. That's a huge thing for recognition. But if you've got that same financial analyst and they go and they take a Photoshop class, that's cool. That's awesome. Like, great. Development is awesome no matter what it is, but it doesn't really tie back to the mission of what they do. So while you might have a personal conversation with them about it and like give them kudos for doing something cool in their time, it's not something you would give them workplace recognition for because it's not tying back to the mission. And you don't want to make recognition less meaningful by recognizing things that aren't important to overall goals and mission of the university. Then here I just have a quick summary slide for us of all of those tips and tricks. So calendaring that recognition, making it that habit of finding the opportunities to recognize other people, looking for opportunities, and that includes, using that reflective recognition practice to find out from employees or your coworkers what awesome things they're doing that they're proud of, and being able to recognize them for those things, and recognizing them for more than just the final step in a process, but the whole thing all along the way, all of the skills that they're bringing to the table. Making it personal, making sure that the recognition you're doing really does reflect who that person is, what it is they want, and matching it to the situation, that it's not, overblown, it's not too small, that it's just that right fit for what it is that the person's accomplished. And then bringing it all back to what are the overall goals for that person, the overall goals for the department or the university, just to keep future work focused forward, all of that. Okay, and then I do have, hang on, I'm gonna, there we go, okay. So before we transition into the UCR recognition programs, I do have a quick clip. I can't resist a dad joke, so I hope you all appreciate this one.
Hey, so there was this office manager. He had an idea one day. He thought every day he'd go and he'd take a tack and he'd pin a sign up above his employees, something that he appreciated about them, just trying to raise company morale. So he started doing it. Every day he'd get out his tack, he'd pin a sign up above their heads. Soon after, employees started quitting. They just couldn't figure out why. So they started asking them. Turns out it had to do with the tack above their heads. Yeah, the employees just felt like they were constantly under attack.
I'm so sorry for the dad joke. Like I said, I just absolutely could not resist it. So, and yes, Christy, that is an excellent point, about you can still recognize people for things that they do that maybe aren't related to their current job. It could be that the new skill could be utilized. So for that financial analyst who took the Photoshop course, maybe they've shared with their supervisor or their coworker, they're looking to get into a marketing role, that, you know what, Impact 23 has completely burned them out on finance. They never want to see a number again in their life. And they need out. So they're going to start doing different courses to try and get themselves situated into a different role. Then absolutely recognizing them for the Photoshop course. Yes, totally applicable. Totally something that you would want to recognize them for. And it's not that you can't recognize people for doing things that are against the mission, or not against the mission, but outside of, you know, their normal goals. It's just making sure you're calibrating the recognition appropriately. So if it's something that they're doing that is tied to the mission, it gets bigger recognition than something that's not so much. But yes, that's a really good point, Christy. Thank you. So now I'll go into some of our UCR recognition programs. Got Scotty here to guide us along in all of the great ways we can recognize people. So Star Awards, I'm sure even if you're new, you've probably heard Star Awards get mentioned. Somehow the acronym STAR does stand for Staff Appreciation and Recognition. Don't ask me where that T comes from, but it is there. That is our monetary program for being able to recognize employees. It is only applicable to our clerical and non-represented folks. It hasn't been bargained with for other employees. And then each org handles Star Awards a little bit differently. So you'd want to check in with your org HR unit on how your unit does it. My CNAS folks, hi, you can come talk to me if you have questions. But, you know, it's a great way to be able to recognize others. Even if your org has their own specific ways of doing things, you can pull down that Star Award nomination form and fill it out and send it to somebody's supervisor just to show, like, hey, I think they're awesome and I want them to be recognized for it. Maybe you don't have the budget for it at this time. Maybe, you know, your org has already done their Star Award process and spent all their money. But just so that you know how great I think this person is. You can absolutely do that. It's a great way of recognizing other people. And there's so many like boxes on the Star Award list to help you kind of align what you're recognizing them for with the greater UCR mission. Non-cash recognition. This is one that's kind of a supervisor focused one. So those of you who don't supervise, this wouldn't be something you could do to recognize somebody. But it is an interesting thing that not a lot of people are aware of that they can do. We can give up to a $75 gift card to employees. And we can also pay for a month of parking, which honestly, with how contentious parking can be for some employees, that's actually a really great award. If it's something that you know has been a point of, has been a sore spot for somebody on your team, that could be a great way to recognize them. There's information on how that works on the HR website. There's rules and restrictions on like how often that kind of recognition can be given. But it is another way of recognizing employees here at the university. Okay. And then the final two programs that we have, we've got the Get Recognized program, which is a monthly recognition program that Staff Assembly puts on. It allows peer-to-peer recognition. Supervisors can nominate people. Employees can nominate their supervisors. You can nominate someone from across campus or on your team, however you want to do it. And then we have the Outstanding Staff Awards, which is another recognition program put on by Staff Assembly annually to recognize staff for high achievements. So I'm going to go into some details on the Get Recognized program and some tips for writing those nominations. Okay, our Director of Recognition, Bree, she's shared with us that, you know, sometimes they get nominations that are just, this person is awesome. They're the greatest person on our team and I love them, which is great. I'm sure they are. I'm sure you do love them. I'm sure they are awesome, but it doesn't really tell somebody who's not on your team and doesn't know this person anything in terms of nominating them for a campus-wide recognition. You really want to be specific and descriptive when you're nominating someone. Like, we believe you that they're amazing. If you're going through the trouble of writing a nomination, obviously they're amazing. We're all busy. We all have so many things on our calendars that you're taking the time, there must be something. Write your nominations like somebody has no clue anything that your team does, anything about this person. Give that full context, tell the story, give details on how they've done something awesome. So, example here on the screen, Scotty took on extra tasks to help get the project completed on time, helping others who ran into issues, providing expertise. Always great team member, and in the past month has really shown his leadership with this project. Pulling in some specifics in there to just drive home why you're nominating the person. And this is where having that calendared time where you're writing down great things people are doing around you can be helpful, because then you can go and consult what you've been writing down all this time and see, oh yeah, Scotty did that and Scotty did that. I'm going to make sure I stick that in my nomination. Okay, so keeping those notes, building that habit of finding opportunities really helps when you come to write a nomination. And then talk to others. If you've got someone who has been great, that is always helping you out, there is a very good chance that there are other people who feel the same way as you, who are also constantly getting help from this person. And so you can team up with them, submit multiple nominations, or you can team up, write one killer nomination all under, one form from multiple submitters to just bring in all of the examples of the different ways this person has helped. I've done nominations both ways, where I've teamed up with people from across campus and we all submitted nominations about how awesome someone's been for us. And then I've also worked with other people where we all know how great this person is and they've done something for us that month, but it's maybe not a super strong nomination by itself. But when we start adding in all the details on one nomination form, it builds this big picture of how great someone is. So that's how you can write a really great nomination. Our Get Recognized program runs monthly. If you're on the Staff Assembly newsletter, which I hope y'all are, there are calls every month for the Get Recognized program. We love to be able to recognize people from all across campus for the great stuff that they're doing. And once you submit your nomination, there is a recognition committee who reviews all of those nominations and they vote on who should be the winner for that month. So that's why it's really important you have those details and all of that context, because those people are from all across campus. So some of them are going to have zero idea what it is someone does. And so just really painting that picture is going to be super helpful in having a successful nomination. Okay. And if they win, we have a quarterly recognition ceremony where they get to come, they get a little trophy, we have some food, they get to just hang out with their friends and be recognized for the great work that they're doing. And if they're not someone who really likes public recognition, they don't have to attend. They can still get the trophy at another time. So they have that choice. And then for our Outstanding Staff Awards, this is an annual program. It's a big fancy to-do that happens at the end of every fiscal year, where people from the chancellor's office and the provost's office and other leadership across campus come and they recognize staff who have been nominated by other staff for the awesome stuff that they've been doing throughout the year. So we have 6 different awards that are given out. There's the Staff Who Make a Difference Award. And so that's kind of like your Get Recognized Award, but for the whole year. So these are staff who are doing great work throughout the year. And there's 4 awards for the different types of employee groups that we have here on campus: the service, administrative, technical, and professional. Then we have a People Helping People Award, which honestly, I think is the coolest award we have to offer. This is one that we get to recognize our coworkers who are doing cool stuff in the community. So this past year, they recognized someone who serves as a mentor to teens at a local boxing place, and they help teens stay on track and not get into trouble. Just, you get to learn so much about coworkers. So if you know a coworker who is doing, they're volunteering their time outside of work, this is a great way to make sure they're being recognized for what they're contributing to the greater community. Our Tartan Soul Award is a way to recognize people who are living up to our UCR core values. Their Tartan Soul, which if you've never heard of the Tartan Soul, which a lot of people haven't because it's really marketed a lot towards students and less towards staff. The Tartan Soul, it's our 4 principles of excellence, accountability, integrity, and respect. I'm happy to go on about Tartan Soul to anybody who has more questions about it. But this award is really just to recognize somebody who's got that Highlander spirit, who is trying to achieve high results. They're willing to, put themselves out there, take risks. They're, always creating a culture of respect and just excellence. So great way to recognize people. Then we have our Diversity Award, which is an award that's given to a staff member who's going above and beyond in their commitment to diversity at UCR. We've got a number of people who work really hard to create an inclusive community for staff and students and faculty here on campus. So this is a great way if you know somebody who is really working on building that community and that culture, of showing them that their efforts aren't going unnoticed and recognizing them for that. The Mary Johnson Outstanding Retiree Award, that's given to a retiree who is still giving back to our campus community, still participating in campus programs, giving back to the Riverside community. It's just a great way to kind of keep our great staff who have retired tied into our community and continue building, showing them that just because you retired doesn't mean that we don't appreciate you and everything that you do. And then the Volunteer of the Year Award, this is actually for a staff assembly volunteer who's been nominated either by other volunteers or by the staff assembly board. So I mentioned Bree has a recognition committee who votes on the different nominations. There's an events committee who puts on fabulous events like our holiday party that happened yesterday, if anybody was able to come out. I have a committee as the director of professional development who helps me review all of the scholarship applications every quarter. There's a ton of volunteers who keep staff assembly running. It is absolutely not just those of us who are on the board making it all happen. We have huge person power behind all of it. So this is an opportunity for us as the board to be able to recognize the people who are helping us get stuff done. And so that's our Outstanding Staff Awards. Nominations for that happen in the spring. Again, if you're on the Staff Assembly newsletter, like you all should be, you'll see calls for nominations come out. Every year, we get really great nominations, but there's always a couple categories where it's, oh, come on, let's get somebody in there. We know people are doing great things, but we need someone to nominate them. So get those nominations in. If you know somebody that's doing something, make sure you're getting that recognition in, that you're, showing that workplace culture of recognition. Okay. So that's our UCR programs. Any questions? I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. That's everything I had in my presentation. And I am open for any questions. If you want me to get into more specifics on anything, I'm happy to do so. And I am going to go ahead and stop recording.